I'm Alexa, and I'm on a trip right now. I'm on one of the most beautiful islands on the planet. But there are such serpentine roads that you have to be very brave to go looping between the mountains. Do you think I'm scared? No, because I am in a super modern sports car, took a course of extreme driving, and I enjoy such adrenaline rush. But all of a sudden, I heard a terrible rumble. Right in front of me, rocks began to fall from the mountain and everything fell into the road. A couple of rocks even fell on top of the car, and I lost consciousness, either from fear or from the impact. I woke up in the hospital. They told me that a guy had brought me here. They handed me my cell phone right away. It turned out that my dad had been calling me for a couple of hours. And my dad is a rich and powerful man who can buy anything and anyone. And now his only daughter disappears from the radar for a few hours. Sure enough, an hour later, on a private plane, he landed on the island to find out how I was doing. I had the best staff and doctors by my side. I got away with a mild concussion, but I couldn't stop thinking about who had saved me. I kept asking this question my dad until he brought Kevin into my room a couple of days later. Dad introduced him to me, saying that Kevin had saved me. A couple of days later, I was discharged and Kevin and I started traveling around the island. Cafes, restaurants, every day was like a holiday. After a week, we stopped at a little cafe in the mountains and Kevin asked me to be his girlfriend. He was from a wealthy family, just like me, so it was an alliance my dad would definitely approve of. That night, we rented a room at the hotel and had dinner there. Suddenly, the waiter, who brought us the food, nodded at me and said, "Hello, stranger. How's your head? Is everything okay?" I didn't understand at first, but all of a sudden, Kevin lunged at the guy with his fists. He hurriedly disappeared into the kitchen. Kevin didn't explain anything to me, but ordered to take our dinner to our room. His mood was clearly ruined. I couldn't get this guy out of my head. He knew me, but how? The next morning, Kevin went for a swim, and I quickly got dressed and hurried to the restaurant. The guy was just about to finish his shift. "Wait!" I stopped him, but he shook his head, saying we shouldn't talk, and when I pulled him up against the wall, I found out he'd saved me the other day, and that his name was Donnie, and that he was just a waiter who happened to be riding his moped through the evening and saw a sports car full of rocks and brought me to the hospital. I was shocked. Turns out my dad was lying to me. And Kevin! They had an agreement. Of course, Dad expected me to throw myself on my supposed savior's neck. We'd start dating. Kevin was from a rich family, so everything would be fine. But I wasn't going to let myself be used. I packed my bags and hailed a cab and left the hotel. Kevin had been calling me for hours, sending me dozens of text messages to explain. But I was already on a plane on my way home to California. And not alone, but with Donnie. There was a spark between us back in the restaurant this morning when I questioned him. "Yeah, he's just a waiter, but isn't money the best thing? Especially since I have plenty of it." We arrived at my spacious apartment in one of the city's skyscrapers. Donnie was shocked. He'd never seen anything like this in his life. I decided to spoil him a little by taking him to one of the brand name boutiques. After all, my boyfriend couldn't walk around in a pair of knockoffs. Donnie tried on some suits for my dad's favorite fashion designer's latest collection, and oh my god, he looked incredible. The simple guy had become an irresistible handsome man. But suddenly, at the cash register, the cashier, blushing, apologized to me, saying that my debit card is blocked. What? I tried 5 more, but in vain. We left the store with nothing. I realized that my dad was getting revenge on me because the cards were his, and he didn't like what I was doing. That's okay, I thought. I'll survive. I started looking for a job, but it was no use. After school, I decided to take a break. And I didn't go anywhere. And why should I? when my father provided me with a comfortable life. But without work experience, without skills, they only took me as a waitress. And my pride wouldn't let me do that. Donnie and I started fighting. He convinced me that we should rent out my luxurious apartment and move into a smaller room. But I can't live like that. And who is he to tell me what to do? Donnie and I had a fight and he freaked out and left. My refrigerator was empty and my phone was disconnected for non-payment. I sat on the terrace of my huge apartment and realized that no one was there for me. I was used to living off my father's money, but I was always obliged to do what he wanted. And once I had disobeyed him, Dad threw me out of his life. Now either I had to fall to my knees and beg for his forgiveness if I wanted to go back to my luxurious, carefree life, or build my life from scratch. A year went by. I had to sell my huge closet, gave up my massage therapist, nutritionist, and beautician, moved to a more modest part of town. But I made a huge investment in my education. I took several online courses and mastered the profession of an image maker. And now my business has gone up. I still have to work hard and hard to live like Alexa did in the past, but I am totally independent and happy. All this time I haven't spoken to my father, but the other day he called me. We talked. We agreed to see each other. I think things will work out, but now he's gonna have to respect my opinions. I'm not a puppet anymore, and I'm in control of my life. Hi everyone, my name is Kat, and recently something happened to me that I couldn't even imagine in my worst nightmare. Anyway, I have a friend, Maggie, and she, when it comes to appearance, is not a good-looking girl at all. She's shorter than me. Her hair color looks awful. And she constantly puts her hair in a bun. Maggie wears glasses with thick lenses. And her clothes are shapeless and gray. And honestly, when I am next to her, she makes me look like a real supermodel. I have golden long hair, blue eyes, a graceful figure, and I wear fashionable clothes. When Maggie and I hang out with the guys, all eyes are on me. And I love it. A new kid, George, recently came to our school. He's handsome, smart, and also plays in our school basketball team. He immediately caught the attention of all the girls. But he was cold to everyone. I really wanted to get to know him. So I tried to get him to like me. One day while walking in the park with Maggie, George came up to us. He was just unbelievable, so attentive and interesting. He was telling us jokes, life stories, and then he asked me out. The next month passed like a fairy tale. We walked in parks, went to the movies, sat in cafes, and just had a great time. I usually took Maggie with me on our dates. She didn't say anything, and it didn't distract us from talking. She made me look even more attractive. George occasionally tried to talk to my friend. But she was just babbling incoherently to herself. I knew Maggie was no competition to me. I was worried about the cheerleaders who were eyeballing my George. But I was glad he didn't even notice their presence. After a month of our relationship, the whole school knew we were dating. We were the perfect couple. One day, Maggie went on vacation with her parents for a week. And the whole time, it was like George didn't notice me. He'd say hello and smile, and then he'd always try to find a reason to disappear. But as soon as Maggie arrived, everything went back to normal. We went on dates, had dinner at cafes. I decided that the ugly girl made me look stunning. I helped pick out Maggie even more gaudy outfits. I told her that makeup was not her thing at all. And I bought for her huge, half-face sunglasses. I bought myself some nice dresses. And I never left the house without makeup. One day, Maggie and I were doing homework together, and she asked me what she should do if a guy who had a girlfriend asked her out. I laughed and told Maggie not to embarrass herself. This guy was probably just making fun of her, because a girl like her could never attract a man, not to mention someone who already has a steady girlfriend. Maggie was very offended at me. She cried and ran home. I don't understand. Would it have been better if I had lied to her? But the next day, the scariest thing happened. George came up to me at school and told me that it was over between us, and that it was because I had hurt Maggie. I was shocked. What has that to do with us? A day later, the worst thing happened. George and Maggie came to school holding hands. She was in her shapeless sweater, with her hair pulled back in a bun and huge glasses, while I was standing in the school hallway like I had just come off the runway. Seeing me, Maggie blushed and lowered her gaze. George gave me a cold hello. Our whole school immediately started talking. No one could believe he replaced me with her. When class was over, I pinned Maggie against the wall. How could you do this to me? We're friends. Kat, I met George when he came to our school, and he asked me out. What? But I blew him off, and he started hanging out with you, so he could at least see me that way. And then I realized that you were purposely choosing horrible clothes for me to look better yourself. And I decided to date George. I was shocked by those words. Maggie had humiliated me so much. But she was right. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I had lost my boyfriend, and I might lose my best friend. It's my own fault. What would you do if you were me? Please write.